Hi everyone, I am Dee. Welcome back to another episode of Spiritually Speaking. I have another amazing guest with me today. This is Lalitha Riback, and she is a Vedic astrologer and life coach, among other things. So, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Dee May. It's a pleasure, and thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm so happy. We have had
Well, I'm
quite
excited
the
about
pre-chat, so
this.
I'm excited to see where this takes us today.
Yes, I'm very excited because you like all the things I adore. For decades, I've loved anything related to consciousness, healing, and the highest potential we all have that we need to start looking into if we haven't. So this is the time for a great conversation, I believe, for everyone. It's a great awakening going on. And
Yes.
even the most conservative teachers now, I'm saying, like the yogis of South India, whom I'm following, since I was a younger person, since I was in my 20s. And they are amazing, the yogis, right? They have supernormal powers. And even they are saying there's a great awakening happening now. They don't talk in terms of frequencies the way we do, but they definitely say we have Satya Yuga now, which is a new cycle. It's a cycle of light. It's a cycle of truth. It's a cycle for returning to the intelligence that has created everything and the universe teeming with life and beings from all these star clusters. So that is their cosmology, and I love it so much. And I know that that can contribute to what we want to do, even as Westerners, and reaching our highest goals and our purpose, right?
Yeah,
What
and
do you think
finding our
about
purpose and stepping into that is so important. Yeah,
right?
so it's
That's
such a
number
beautiful
one.
thing.
It is because it gives meaning. It gives also hope, and it gives beyond hope. It gives also tools, practical tools for manifesting. And so the yogis don't call it manifesting. They just say, type into your higher self and just, get to whatever you want. And so did Jesus. I don't know if this is the channel to talk about Jesus, but I don't follow Catholicism. Although I was born into that religion, my parents weren't religious, but they did believe in benevolent, you know, divine. And also, but Jesus was a yogi. He was a very loving being, and he's been
Yes,
misinterpreted, I believe. What did he say? Ask for whatever you want, it shall be done for you. But we
right,
don't talk about what do they tell us in church? I shall not want. That's terrible. It's disempowering. And that you're dust, you return to dust. No, we are fully divine, fully empowered. And Jesus told us, you can practice miracles. You can manifest what I did even better. So to
right.
me, to have being like that, that is followed by what, 1 billion people? How many people follow Christianity? I don't know. So
I
if we
don't
start
either.
looking into the real teachings, now all of a sudden we start levitating. I believe because it's about what we believe. It's about how we perceive ourselves.
I love that. That was so great. It was so great. I was raised very religious. I've stated that in previous podcasts as well. I was raised Pentecostal, which is a very strict religion.
Yes, I
So
love it though, because
yeah,
it gives you tools to bypass the rational mind. Don't you think, with the speaking in tongues, speaking
yeah,
a kind of what we call gibberish, right? Gibberish, um, bypasses the rational mind, which is what linear, impossibility, prone to negativity. It has the negativity bias, and we need to have so many tools, because even I go into negativity and I teach, don't go into negativity and possibility thinking, don't go into scarcity thinking. But it's a constant work of vigilance. I mean, we have to be vigilant with the
I do.
mind.
Yes. I call it the human
How do
factor because we
yes.
I believe it's that piece of us that is so grounded in where we are in this 3D reality that that's the piece of us that drifts back to the old habits of living in scarcity. And, and you mentioned the teachings of Jesus and stuff like that. And I believe that from what I've seen, being raised in a Pentecostal religion where that is taught, and is that it's taught and it's freely taught, it's freely talked about, but I don't feel like it's actually believed, because
Yeah, that's the problem.
it's very
Automatic, you mean?
I don't want to,
Ritualistic?
I don't want to because this comes off as sounding judgmental, but it's really not. There's a lot of unhealthy behaviors, because that they're still so here that they think everything is outside of them. They don't
Yes,
really.
I was thinking of that. Yes, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
Absolutely right. I was just having that mental conversation with myself today, and I thought, why is it that catechism was so insipid? I went from speaking to angels and Jesus on a daily basis since I was 5 or even
right,
younger. I went to catechism and I was deadly bored. And it was because it appeals to the rational mind. It's linear. They tell you that you cannot understand God because God is the ocean and you are the bucket. No, we are the ocean too. We
right,
are fully empowered higher beings who came from the stars. We didn't even originate here. It's just the other way around. So no wonder most people become indifferent, to religion, to say the least, if they're not traumatized, because some people are really traumatized.
hmm,
And I also come from a yogic background because I've been studying yogic science for like 30 years.
hmm,
And one day I decided to go back to church and check it out. So I was wearing like a suit. I think it was Easter. I was wearing something nice. I lived in a nice area where everybody dressed up for going to church. So I arrived and the priest said, now, what is it called? Like share your gesture of peace. I'm from Italy, so sometimes the terminology is not the same. But anyway, like exchange a gesture of peace. So I turned and there was a nice old lady, like very cute and very sweet. And so I smiled and I extended my hand and she was like this. So I was like, I have forgotten that negativity because I was coming from this yogic background where there was so much love, so much acceptance, and so much sweetness, and so much idealism on how to help humanity and how to heal and how. Also, I'm a Reiki master. I think you are too. And so we wanted to help and heal and embrace humanity. And here we have somebody who doesn't even like to shake hands. And I
right.
thought, oh my goodness, I cannot deal with this much negativity anymore. So she helped me that I never went back. That was it. It was a fight with myself. And I thought, okay, this is not for me. Not anymore. That's it.
Yeah,
And I never went back, really. It
yeah,
was funny though. And so I can see how people become traumatized. They're told, you're a sinner, you'll die, you'll go back to the dirt from whence you came. And maybe you'll be saved if you deserve it, or most likely you'll go to hell. So who needs that?
right.
Because life can be difficult already for many people. And we don't need to hear these messages anymore. That's it. As much as and I know that I wrote it in my book. May I talk a little bit about my book because
Yes,
I believe
please.
it's relevant?
Yes.
So my book is launching today and tomorrow, and actually the 22nd is the official launch. So it's called Think and Receive Miracles. So I've talked also about a little bit about Jesus, but mostly about the higher beings who are here now on the earth plane. From my research and studies, I discovered that we are in this time called the Golden Age or Satya Yuga. Satya Yuga is the Sanskrit term. And there are all these higher beings who have returned. And it's in all the scriptures. Krishna said a return. Jesus said a return. In the literature of the star beings and ETs, etc., all these higher councils coming back. So it's really global. It's called
Yes.
global from the point of the earth plane, but it's a cosmological change, right? So now we have all this higher energy on the earth plane, and depending on what we do with it, we are either empowered or we remain stuck in things that we don't like. And maybe some people are having a wonderful life, so they don't need to hear our conversation. You know, like our audience are those who really want something more. They want more meaning and more
Yes.
happiness, affluence, ease, peace, joy, going to the places where they feel called to go. Like you want to go to Polynesia, why not? You should be able to go tomorrow or
Right.
today, right? Spontaneously. So the other thing about the book I wanted to say, so I talked about my experiences with higher beings my whole life, and it started at 5, and particularly some star groups like from Lyra. I don't remember most of it, but what I remember to me is like what I hear from other people. Oh, I've had experiences with this star group, and I've had experiences with this other star group. So it's a great conversation, I believe, that we can have now because the help is available. So that's why it's very timely for us to start talking about this, because we're cosmic beings. We're not just earth beings. And
Right.
we're multidimensional, right? Do you believe that too?
I do. Yes. I do believe that.
Yes.
It's so interesting too. And I love these conversations because I am very open to these things, and I've had my own experiences with stuff like this, like we talked about previously. And some of the stories that I've, experienced, I still haven't shared. And, I
Yeah.
will eventually, when the time's right for those. But I know we're in a period of disclosure right now because some of the people that I follow,
And the government,
like
yes.
Danny Henderson, I don't know if you've heard of her. She's one of the people that I follow, and she puts on, this will be, I think it's the 3rd year that she has put on what's called the Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection. And it's a big event that happens. And this year it's going to be in Colorado, in a little town just outside of Denver. So
Are you going? Are
my
you
plan
going?
is to go. I haven't bought my tickets yet, but my plan is to go. So, because I really feel like I need to be there. I feel like something special is going to happen
Yes.
while I'm
If you
there.
feel
So,
called, by all means, you should be there. In fact,
yeah.
you're already there about that.
Yes.
We found out that time doesn't even exist, right?
Right.
Also, the universe doesn't exist. Scientists in 2022 proved beyond any shred of doubt that we don't even have a physical universe. It doesn't exist as a locality. So then we make our own environment. We decide, and it's really our idealism, our goals, our desires that create everything.
Mhm.
For good or for worse, right? That's why we need to be very cautious about what we think, and especially about what we speak.
Yes.
So I believe that we create as we go. I'll give you an example of how that works. So without any publicity and organically, my book reached 6th on Amazon best-selling list. And I was ahead of Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if you're familiar with the power of now. So I was ahead of him and ahead of Jay Shetty, who is a big name in
No, Jay
marketing, he has
Shetty
millions.
too.
I was ahead of these incredible guys, right? But what did I look at? I looked, oh, there's this guy who is a best-selling, New York Times best-selling author. He was ahead of me, like 2 spots up. Maybe I was 6th and he was 4th. And I thought, what chances do I have? He has 35,000 or 2,500 reviews, and I had 4. So I was starting to compare and start feeling very negative about this. And I thought, no, it's not. That's not how it works. And then fortunately, I have a fantastic publisher, Katie Carey. I don't know if you're not familiar with her. And she said, what are you talking about? You're ahead of Eckhart Tolle. You're ahead of Jay Shetty. Why are you looking at that? It all depends on how many copies are sold today. So I thought, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that. I was looking from a negativity bias
Right.
standpoint, right? So I'm the one, I'm a teacher. Even I need to be super careful now. I understand. It was very humbling and a great reminder how we create as we go. And then from the moment on, I thought, no, it's really in the hands of the divine. If this is a great book for everyone, it will go as high as it can go. So I don't have to worry about that. And in fact, can you please tell your audience to buy it as soon, like today or tomorrow, the latest? It would be great it would be great help, because I don't have $1 million marketing team like the New York Times or etc. It's just me and my publishing company, and just organically, telling people this book you may like. It's about meeting with this tall blonde being when I was a child, and then continue to have hints like from my mother. She also met another tall, gorgeous blonde person who seemed not of this world, and talked to her. It's in perfect Italian. She was in Italy. My mother lived near Milan. And then like all these messages and events that have been happening, I believe are connected with star beings, and there are angelic beings, some of them, and some are just very much like us. Some are good and some are bad, but there are all kinds, and they are in contact with us telepathically, or sometimes they actually show up.
Yes.
Like in the book, I can disclose a little bit, like a friend of mine who lives in France, she is a Parisian. And one day after reading this beautiful book on extraterrestrials, she thought, I want to meet them. I'm ready. But she didn't know what she was asking for, right? So the next day she was on the subway in Paris, and she was sitting and she saw this gorgeous, amazingly looking man. He was maybe in his early 30s, or maybe late 20s, early 30s. And he was so elegant. And you know how in Paris people dress very nicely sometimes. And she was looking at him and she thought, oh, he looks extraterrestrial, but she didn't think much of it. And he sat next to her, even though there were a lot of empty seats. And at that time, she started getting a little rigid. I thought, is this really an extraterrestrial? And then he said to her, if you don't hurry, you'll miss your stop. And mentioned the name of the station where she was going. Say, I don't know, Montmartre. You'll miss Montmartre if you don't hurry. So he was telepathic. And then she was trying to sit in a little bit away from him. And then she started thinking, okay, I want to go to this health event. There was like a huge conference. They called it Health Salon. And she was thinking, should I go to this or that? And they were on opposite sides of the city. So she was wondering in her mind. And he said, I think you should go to this one, actually. She wasn't looking at a map or anything. She was just thinking. And he said, I think you should go to that health salon. It's much better. And you love it. And then she freaked out. And then she got out, ran out at the first stop. And then when she calmed down, she said, wait a minute, I asked for this. Clearly it's telepathic. He's tall, blonde, and gorgeous, and dressed so beautifully. Of course. And then she calmed down and she was very grateful. And I had a similar experience.
That's
and I talked about
amazing.
it. Yes, it's all about what we are ready for, right? Some people,
Mhm.
it's not for everybody. Some people may not be ready and they even call us crazy. It doesn't matter. When
They do.
you're ready, you'll have the experiences you need for your growth. And also for the things you need to do in life, like what? Like believing that there's more than just flesh and blood, and that actually there's so much more that our life can offer, right? And that we
Mhm.
can offer so much more to others. We
Yes.
can heal and inspire and do great work and be creative and productive.
Yeah.
I would like to
All of
hear
that.
your all of that.
All of
That
that.
is amazing.
Yeah. All of that. It's amazing to me. The only thing that limits us is ourselves. Our thoughts that we can't do it, that we won't be able to do it. I don't even use the word can't anymore because I don't believe it. You can do it.
I don't We can do anything, absolutely. Yeah, in my first book, it was strictly yogic and about supernormal powers. I gave so many examples of how when you think you can do nearly the impossible. and also a lot of accounts of, other people, clients or students, family members. It's all up to us. The work has to be done inwardly. There's
Yes.
no other way to go. You can take the course, you can sign up for the coaching class and all classes, but it's all up to you and what you want to believe, right?
Yeah.
There'll be skeptics who have another belief system, which is even more radical than the fundamentalists today are those who call themselves skeptics. So they are not ready to see anything else beyond their flesh and blood. So, and
Right.
the limited eyes. Birds have better eyes than we do, and
Oh,
cameras
yeah.
too.
Animals are so open, and so are children. We were talking about that in our pre-chat before we started recording, that children, and you said your experiences with this type of stuff started when you were very young. You named an age, but I
Yes.
was around that same age when I
Five
first
is
started
because
seeing
we
spirit.
sorry, say that again. How
I
old were
was
you?
around the same age, 5, when I
Yeah,
first remember seeing spirit for the first time. However, I believe that I did previously. I just don't remember it, because I,
exactly. Why is everybody talking about age 5? I believe that something happens to our neocortex at that age, or maybe the frontal lobe, that even though we're used to all these experiences and living on multiple dimensions, we're multidimensional from the birth. I believe that we take it for granted. And then at 5, we become more self-aware and we remember. And
Mhm.
then maybe we talk to other people. My childhood was different because my parents were very busy working all the time. So I didn't get a lot of attention, which was in a way a blessing for a spiritual child, because nobody told me you're crazy, that's not true, etc. I never told anything. Last night didn't say I talked to the angels, or I saw this tall blonde being in my room. Anybody, maybe a parent who pays attention is freaked out and says, no, you shouldn't believe in these things. And
Right.
maybe a parent who is an atheist will say, no, there's no such a thing. You imagined, and you have imaginary friends or things like that.
Yes.
I was very open when my son told me, there's Michael on the tree. I believe it was the Archangel Michael. And I said, what does he look like? I didn't say you're crazy. I said, what does he look like? I want to
Right.
see him. And he said, he's like a beautiful, he didn't say beautiful. He said, a little boy. Do you see his blonde curls? And I said, no, I don't see him. I was honest with him, but
Right.
I didn't dissuade him in any way. I just,
Right.
okay, he's a friend. He isn't Michael. Yeah, you
That's
can
so
talk to him.
cool that he saw
And
him
he was
as
three.
a little
He was
boy.
3 years old.
3.
Yes, and he was 3. So perhaps and in fact, he has forgotten, because when he was having this conversation with me, he wasn't 5 or 6, that age when you remember. When I told him, he had no recollection of all that. And in fact, he asked me questions, and now he's 30 something, and he's like, no, I don't remember, Mom. And
Yeah.
even maybe at 12, I tried to tell him, and he had already forgotten. And that's very sad, because these
Yeah.
are important experiences we have. And I believe that we should um, keep records, right? Our
Yeah.
families should help each other to keep records of these beautiful events that really mark the growth of an individual,
Hmm.
right? Because
Yeah.
somewhere in him, he just has forgotten.
Yeah. And I told you about an
Thank you.
experience I had when I was little that I don't remember, but my mom told me about, where I had an imaginary friend that was a purple horse, you know, and I
Amazing.
would love to be able to remember that, but I do not. I do not remember having a purple horse friend when I was little.
You were on another planet, right? Because
Yeah.
horses are obviously not purple on Earth, but on other planets, of course, they
Right.
may be all or yellow even, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
And you know
Yeah.
what's interesting? I'm a writer also, and
Yeah.
I was really into the movie scene for a while. I had made some friends in Indiana when I worked there, or when I lived there rather. And well, I worked there too, but at any rate, they were in the
Indiana.
independent film scene where they made independent movies, and I was involved in that scene for a while where I was actually in some movies, and I was thought I'm going to be a screenwriter. And so I actually wrote a screenplay where my purple horse from my childhood is one of the characters in that movie.
Fantastic.
Of course, it's still sitting in my computer. I haven't
Oh
done anything
no.
with it, but
Oh
it's
no, you should. We
it's
need these kind of.
it's
We
fully
need
written.
this kind of these. Yes, please take out of your works full of light, full of inspiration. We need that.
Yeah, it would be fun. If it's meant to come to be into a movie, it'll happen. I'll come across the right person that I'll talk to about it, and
Definitely.
it'll
You're
happen. And
ready. When you're ready, it will happen.
right,
Definitely. We have
exactly.
seen enough darkness. I believe the entertainment industry needs an uplifting uh, job. I believe it's full of darkness, most of it. Yeah. It's very hard for me to find something inspirational. That's why most of the time I just watch either something to do with the Ramayana, the Bhagavad Gita, all these higher, this where cosmology is way more inspirational, inspiring than what we have. Like your flesh and blood came out of nothing from a monkey, and then and we all started this 6,000 years ago. It's kind of boring and untrue, but in my
Yeah.
beliefs and
Yeah,
my
no, I
research.
agree with you. I was actually just listening to Greg Braden. I don't know if you know who he is.
Yes, of course, I know a
And
great bread. And yeah,
and
it's
I was just
also, we see
listening.
the
Let me
stars.
see what the name of this is real quick. It's called the the controversial genome chromosome
Oh,
TBR2.
yes, yes.
And he's actually talking
Yes,
about how it's very scientific, and he goes into
doesn't
all of
match
it, but it's
anything.
absolutely fascinating.
Doesn't match. It doesn't match hominids. It doesn't match monkeys or gorillas. It doesn't match anything. We
Yeah.
just appeared like, and so that's very much like what the yogi said,
Hmm.
right? We came from other planes of existence, and also like I really believe in what people remember and or they can intuit because they have these faculties and they're superior, I believe, to the linear mind,
Yes.
that's from A and ends at Z. And for example, I love the story of this Swami in Kauai, in Hawaii. He was a Hindu Swami, a Westerner originally, but he spent his whole life in meditation. And he was channeling this being from the Pleiades star cluster, Muruga, who is a Hindu god. But God is a higher cosmic being, right? In his light. But I believe he also had a three-dimensional body, because that's what we say in Vedic astrology. We talk about the planets as beings who also have a body. So there's consciousness and they're alive. And Greg Braden said the same thing. He said the stars are alive, they're conscious, and also they choose their paths. And that's what Vedic astrology says. And of course, the sun, same thing. And all the planets in our galaxy are alive. They're beings and they're full of life. So how can we say maybe we'll find some cells or some water? No, on Mars we had water according to Vedic astrology. Venus is a water planet. So we know that there's so much more than we're told, and maybe their life is underground. It doesn't matter to me, but there are beings everywhere. Every planet is inhabited according to the yogis and also according to what I heard and observed. And also, I like to follow people who have had experiences, right? Because we're all in this together and we need to tell each other stories, I believe.
Yeah, we do definitely. But like I said in my, well, I shouldn't say, but and when we do share those stories, we need to tell them how we remember them and not embellish them and add to them with
Oh,
all of this stuff that,
integrity is important. Yes. Otherwise,
yes,
we're just eating each other. Yes, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
I was very accurate in my book, to the point that some people can say, oh, you imagined it all. So what? Einstein said imagination is more important than, what did he say, the intellect? Something like that. But actually, I was very accurate. This is what I remember.
Right.
Also, like I know from studies on children that my experiences were authentic, because children can see with their eyes closed. So, double blindfold, they can read perfectly. In India, they've done some studies that little children can take a note, like this is from Mother's Day, but anyway, they touch double blindfold, and touching, they can read perfectly. A newspaper, a banknote, a letter, anything. And so their third eye is fully open.
Mm-hmm.
That's before puberty. And then I believe that hormonal changes and also the environment and, what we believe collectively has a huge influence on our children. But other than that, we can use our higher gifts. They are
Yes,
inborn, unless
they
we
are.
block them.
Right.
Great job
And
of block.
that's it. We do it. We do it. And we're taught to do that by society a lot because they're afraid of,
Yes, the fear
what,
is a problem. Yeah.
yeah. But,
Have you had the experience that you call someone who says, I was just thinking about you,
yeah,
and actually they're almost spooked out. They're like, this is funny, this is spooky. Why? This is normal.
right.
Like sometimes go and I remember the way, like it happened with my husband when we were just dating, courting time. So for some time, I didn't want to talk to him. He had said something that was upsetting to me. So he made a mistake. So I didn't want to talk to him. But one day, at that time, we had the dial. As I was
Yes.
in a conversation with a friend. We were having lunch. And I didn't tell her anything. I just got up and went to dial my boyfriend's number. And he answered, I don't believe this. And I said, what? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And he went on and on. I said, what's going on? And he said, I was just looking at your photo and I wanted to call you. And that's how he married me.
That's
Because
so
then we
cool.
stayed. I lived in Rome. I went back to Rome, and then he came and we became engaged in Rome. And then after we got married, I moved to Chicago. So that's a long story. And now we have 2 children.
That's
So
awesome.
that's one. Some people are really scared. And I have never been scared, because I feel that if we have any intuition, it's a gift, as Einstein said. It's a divine gift, sacred gift, he called it. And also it protects us. It's like, do you turn left or right? If you turn left, you have a problem. If you go to the right, you're safe, and you go home happily ever after. So
Right.
it's that simple. So we need to have our intuition. We need to teach our children to value it. I've always told my children, intuition, trust your intuition, trust your heart, like be safe. If somebody feels unsafe, trust it. If that situation is not right for you, trust it. If that thing feels amazing, you want to do it, then go ahead. So I always try to empower them. I even told them, hey guys, you don't need to get sick. That the age when children are like 9, 10. So they're 2 years apart. So they were like, some days, Mama, my stomach hurts. I don't want to go to school. So I told them, okay, you don't need to get sick. All you need to do is ask me for a day off, because we adults do that. Some
Right.
days we just don't want to go to work, and we feel miserable if we go to work. So we need some rest. And I told them, you can take a day off here, sometime, but don't abuse it.
Right.
Occasionally you can take it off. They never got sick that winter. All their friends were home with the flu, the strep throats, ear infections, all the usual. And they never got sick. And only twice they asked me for a day off. One of my sons, who wasn't such a big student, he didn't like to study, but he was bright, uh, asked for 2 days off. And the other one only asked for one in the whole school year. So they didn't abuse it. They never got sick. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
We need to empower children and not just follow the, the linear path. Yes,
Yeah.
you go to school, get your antibiotics. Not that that's wrong if it's needed, right? But there's more. There are other ways for healing and preventing troubles. And also you can empower yourself because you feel, wow, it worked. And now you trust yourself more, right?
Yeah.
Stay
Absolutely.
healthy.
Yeah. And it's a lot like what you said earlier, what we say, if we expect that, if we're saying, I always get this time of year, well, it's that time of year again,
Yes,
and,
people time it. Last year on May 3rd, I got this disease, and it becomes a trauma of some kind that needs healing and letting go. Don't believe it. Don't believe that that's what's gonna happen to you every May, every spring allergies.
yeah.
It's not that the body doesn't get attacked by all kinds of poisons, it can happen, but the two planet, we're in for some trouble. I think we should stop thinking that way. And we're all prone to that, right? Oh yeah, I have allergies, my nose is itching, oh this and that, etc. But yeah, it's very important what we speak. This is what I found out. My teacher talks a lot about that because God created with a word, and he's Indian, he's a yogi, so he doesn't need to believe in Christianity or Bible, and yet he knows that truth. What do the
Mhm.
yogis do? They extract the highest wisdom, and they don't make it dogmatic. They don't make it a doctrine. They are runaway rebels. They don't even follow Hinduism. They just have a lot of knowledge and
Right.
supernormal powers when they're real yogis. I'm not talking about the delusional ones, those who sit all day, do nothing. But I'm talking about the real scientists of consciousness. So what did he say? So Dr. Pillai is my mentor, and he said, God created with the word. The word is sound waves, right? Frequencies.
Yes.
With frequencies, you turn an egg, I forget what, of a frog into a salamander with different frequencies. Like life itself is sounds and frequencies, the string theories, the string theory. So all that should tell us, watch your words. I always tell my children, every word matters.
Yes.
Every word. When they say something self-deprecating in some countries, it's elegant. It's being well bred, well brought up. They grew up with privilege. If you call yourself an idiot every 5 minutes, no, that's not true.
Right.
In fact, it's very abusive, self-abusive. Because like in England, for example, somebody told me, no, in my country, you have to pretend to be a little stupid. Otherwise, you sound like a know-it-all and it's rude. And I said, well, be careful what you want to manifest.
Right.
All right.
You
At
might
the
just
end
turn
of the,
into an
at the
idiot.
end of the day, at the end of the day, you rather, avoid looking like a know-it-all. First of all, we're supposed to be fully omniscient because that's what we are.
Right.
When are we that way? When we dream, so we are not into the monkey mind, or when we are in a higher state of meditation, or also when we receive higher energy empowerment, energy transmission from these higher beings, or like really enlightened masters. There are not that many, unfortunately. When you have an energy transmission, your body will know it. You'll have a Kundalini experience, like the spinal column will shake and you'll be in a state of ecstasy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. And it's so cool when it happens when you least expect it, right? Like I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, Kat, she's an artist. She makes beautiful dream catchers. And
Yeah.
we are going to do a barter where I make her a piece of art and she's going to make me one of her beautiful dream catchers in a way that I showed her what I want. So, and she was talking about the beads everything. And she goes, now, do you want a bead on the inside, like on the web part of it, or do you just want the spider? I had not mentioned spider to her.
I
We
had
had
no
not talked
idea.
about
Yeah.
spider. That morning when I was listening to a lady that on YouTube that I like to listen to who does tarot readings, she did an impromptu bonus collective reading, not even for a certain sign, but she goes, oh, she drew this card and she said it's spider energy.
Ah.
And she said, and then
Oh,
she goes into this explanation about how spider energy is creative energy. And when a spider doesn't like where its web is, it will take it down and rebuild it somewhere else. Or if it's tattered, it'll tear it down and it'll rebuild it. It's that creation energy, that creation energy.
that's one thing. Okay,
And
I didn't know that.
she
Yeah,
mentioned that spider and I started laughing. I said, that's so funny. I said,
that's amazing. Psychic.
and I told her that story about what the lady's name is Julie Poole, who did that reading. And I love listening to her. She's a British lady. She's just beautiful. And I told her that story about I was listening to that morning. And I said, that is so amazing. Like, I love it. I'm never surprised by spirit, but I'm always amazed. It's just so incredible to me how it happens, you know? And I told her, I said, here's what I want you to do. I said, while you're making my dream catcher, what I want you to do is listen to your soul.
Oh,
That's what I want you to put in there, whatever your soul tells you to do. So I am so
you
excited when
follow your
she's,
intuition, right?
pardon me.
Like you told her, follow your soul, your intuition, your
Yes,
higher family, your higher gifts.
yes,
Yes, yes. We should honor each other's gifts. That's number one.
yeah,
But we also have to choose our community because you cannot have the same conversation with everybody.
right.
Right?
Yeah, you can't. And you don't have to feel like you have to. That's the
And
thing,
there's
you
no
know.
need to. There's no need to, exactly.
Yeah, I remember years ago when I was talking to a friend of mine, she felt like she was being inauthentic if she didn't tell everyone her beliefs. And I
Oh,
said, you're not being inauthentic. You're not
a waste of
not believing
time.
that. You're not saying you don't believe that. You're just not talking about it. You have to pick your audience sometimes with the words you say.
Oh, yes. I got in trouble. I wrote about it in my other book, Bliss Lab. I went to a dinner party in New York City, and they were sorry, a friend of mine was like, we were friends for like, since we were young, very little. And still, she was a skeptic, like really doesn't believe in God, doesn't believe in anything. So to give it, she would just like grilled me at dinner. And she said, so give us an example. You know, you lived in India for 5 years. Give us an example of your miracles that you talk about, you know, in your books, etc. And I said, well, for to give you a practical example, I said, I had a terrible cough when I was in India. And I went to my guru and I said, Babaji, I have this terrible cough. And he just looked at me and my cough disappeared. For 6 months, I didn't cough. And then goes, what happened? The dark forces got involved because you're not supposed to have these conversations and become vulnerable with people look at you like this. So I felt very intimidated, very stressed out. So I took a piece of cracker from my little plate and I just took a little piece and I started coughing. You know, because you know how dry crackers can
Yes.
do that. Everybody started laughing, like 20 people laughing at you. And all of a sudden you're like completely deflated, completely defeated and feel, oh my God, why did I say that? And of course, so that was an awkward moment to say the least. And then I realized, no, you're not supposed to have these conversations. Plus, like even your own gifts. Like the yogis say, if you have a power, you have to hide it. What are they implying? That most of the time, we become vulnerable with our own people. If
Mhm.
that person is, okay, now we see very mainstream people who seem very mainstream, who come out of the closet and turn out to be psychics, astrologers and whatever, and so many other things. But in general, if somebody is just a computer engineer and doesn't believe in anything, just don't go and trouble him or her, and just let it go. Don't have to have the conversation.
Right.
However, I'm a Vedic astrologer, and Vedic astrology is followed by a lot of scientists. So that's the amazing part, that I've done master classes with Oxford scientists, with people, all these engineers of all kinds, and researchers and scientists from top schools, Harvard, Yale, like amazing brains, and they all love Vedic astrology. And in India, it's considered a science. So the collective is important. So in India, the Supreme Court said Vedic astrology is a science. It works like computer science, period. That's it. Now you get a PhD. So the University Grants Commission also contributed to that and gives grants. So because of that, the conversation is very different. Like in the US, sometimes people say to me, well, not everybody believes in astrology. It's not a belief system unless if you look into it, like everything else, if you study it, if you look into it, you may find something. So being a skeptic, I believe, without looking into things is self-defeating. And we miss a lot of opportunities, because I use the timings. For example, when we first started talking on the computer, I was late and I was so embarrassed. And then I realized, oh my goodness, actually it's better, because it was the time of what we call of Rahu. It's a lunar node that is very inauspicious, and starting things at that time is better not doing them at all, because it will backfire or will be useless, basically. And we started at 9:15 actually with the podcast. And now I know it was done in an auspicious time, because earlier it would have been bad. Like, it's that precise. So it's like choosing a frequency or the weather. So you see, it's okay, now you can go hiking and you love it. And maybe you go swimming in the river, you'll have a great time. But if it's thundering and the sky's all black and it's chilly, why do you want to go swimming?
Right.
It's simple as that. And Greg Braden also explains that as a scientist, he explains it very well.
Yeah.
That's why I love these higher sciences. They got lost, forgotten. We became very skeptical, very manipulated also, because I was an intellectual too, like, don't think I was just all crystals and higher frequencies. I was studying literature,
Yeah.
and most of literature that we study in Europe is very dark. I also studied philosophy since a young age. Like at 11, I started to study philosophy. That's how it's done in our high school when it's for humanities. So like, it was negative.
Yeah.
People were talking about the problem of God, the problem of metaphysics, and they never agreed with each other. I got very depressed because I thought nobody knows anything. And then why do I have to study this? And I got depressed from literature because the people who wrote had their own vices. They had they were alcoholics and they had strange sexual habits. For me, as a teenager, I wasn't ready to even want to know, I didn't care. So
Right.
everything, so we learn so many things that don't help us in life. So I don't know if that's coincidental, it happens like that by chance, or if it's done on purpose to steal some of our consciousness and powers. So we need
Yeah.
to be.
I think it's a really interesting thing to think about because, like I had the conversation with someone, it may have been Jill, I'm not sure, but at any rate, how in the old series Charmed, there was a movie about three witches, and there's this force behind the scenes. It's almost like the spirits come in
Mhm.
and they create havoc, like they whisper in your ear and they tell you, like to be mad at the person you're talking to. And then all of a sudden there's this scene where they go around doing that. And then all of a sudden everybody's fighting with each other. Cars are crashing and people are arguing in the street. And because these entities, and that's what they draw their power from, is the anger and the hate that they
And the
create
fear.
between people and the fear. Yeah, absolutely. So it is a
Yes, so
very
they want
interesting thing to
us
think
to
about.
be fighting, and they want us heartbroken. They want those relationships to end bitterly. And yeah, so there is a lot of manipulation, there's no doubt. That's why
Yeah.
we need to be super vigilant. And the yogis talk in terms of dark forces. What are dark forces? Forces that have not evolved. And also it's part of the divine design, which I believe. The interaction of good and bad helps our evolution, but it's very painful and you have to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why there are scientific guidelines we have in Vedic astrology. Okay, don't use these days. These times are inauspicious. Don't start anything. It won't work. I have tested it. There's one lunar phase called the ninth moon, and it's ruled by an archetype called Yama, is the god of death. But it's also like a being of righteousness, because what is death? The way we perceive it. It's the equalizer. Everybody is, to leave the body. Even Jesus said, this corruption will not inherit the kingdom. Our soul has every power and is eternal, but this,
Right.
not so much. So there's this archetype called Yama. And when you start something during the ninth moon, it will die. What does that mean? That it won't work. You have to redo it. So, and I've tested it sometimes, like for a podcast. Somebody said, I have this spot. Would you like to do it? And I said, it's the ninth moon. Okay, I'll do it. Crazy stuff happened. Like I did a podcast in Italy, a beautiful channel. It's very popular. So I did this podcast and there were no live viewers. There were maybe 5 people. And that's very unusual because it's a very popular channel. And then we found out that this big shot, like a big name, say like Eckhart Tolle, somebody like that, the equivalent in Italy, was doing his live at the same time, and they all went there. And when
Right.
they reposted it, because it had not been advertised, basically I had the lowest views that channel has ever had. Or similarly, the eclipses. We are gaslighting so much in the West because people like to say cool things about eclipses. No, it's not bad. No, we can meditate, we can hold hands. No, we can't. It's literally very self-destructive. Number one, there are radiations from the sun and the moon during the eclipse, because the eclipse always happens when the sun and the moon are together. So it's a solar eclipse. So it's a new moon, right? So the sun and the moon are interacting and creating terrible radiations, which are dangerous for the body. In fact, in India, in the Vedic circles, children are not allowed to go outside during a solar eclipse, and also pregnant women and elderly, because it's very harmful. And also the level of consciousness we're taking in, all this darkness, which is used by dark forces to mess with humanity and to cause problems. And some people who don't like God, I don't want to talk about it, but they have a different religion, they use the eclipses to do harmful things, to benefit themselves and hurt. So there's really something into this. And so why start something during an eclipse? Also, the lunar eclipses are on the full moon. So they're not as dangerous. Still, it's radiations. It doesn't upset the digestion as much. It's not as harmful physically, and it's not as harmful at the level of consciousness, but it's still an eclipse. And there are some lunar phases that are used by dark people with bad agendas. they are more spiritual than we are, because what? We are innocent and we're skeptical. We look into things and we try and evaluate, research, etc., and use our intellect. They know, they grow up since they're children, they have acquired a lot of power and money by having these secrets.
Right.
And they don't question them. They just keep doing this stuff over and over again. And it works. It worked better before Satya Yuga. Now we're entering this time of awakening. So the dark agendas are not working as well as they used to.
That's
And
good.
now who will be rewarded? So even my mentor, who's a Siddha from South India, he said, from now on, spiritual people will be rewarded. Well, my book is proving that. It's at the top organically without any publicity.
That's
But
awesome.
now I need to do a little publicity. Please buy my book. Think and receive. So it
Do
needs to
you
be bought in the
do you need to though, or is that just a construct that you've created in your mind?
Well, I do want to, because I feel that it has a lot of value that people can really empower themselves with this book. I don't just tell stories. I give a lot of help. I've
Right.
studied like 30 years and with great masters, and I have a lot of tools that can really empower us fast, and we need to use this time fast.
Right.
Because what? We also have some risks that we, you know, world war. We either wake up fast or we get in a lot of troubles, pretty
Yeah.
much. And they
Yeah.
may even be Earths, different frequencies, where some people are ascending and evolving, and another group who will just remain on the Earth plane and experience what? The wars. I mean, look what happened with Iran and Israel just a few days ago. Every other day we risk a world war, because now all these alliances are coming out. So we need to make really some choices really fast. So it's not just for my ego. Yeah, of course I'm pleased if my book gets number
Sure.
one,
Sure.
but
It
it's
always
also
feels
like
good.
it feels excellent, but it's not just for me. That's not why I'm doing this. I could make a
Right.
lot more money. I was an executive in PR. I worked for the Italian consulate. I was the second person in 11 states in cultural affairs. I've done a lot of other things, but to me, they were not as impactful,
Right.
for my, and also I didn't enjoy them as much. So I've tried other things, but I know what works. I have
Yeah.
tested it thousands of times. So yeah, I'm saying that this book can really be positive to show us that we're really cosmic beings with a lot of power, and that we need to use these tools that are available and also connect with higher beings. They really want to help us.
They do. And we
Even
have
just
to ask, right? Do you agree that we have to ask them for
we
their
need
help?
to ask, because free will is
Right.
a universal law. It
Yes.
exists in every galaxy, and that's also what the yogis say. So we need to ask, and we need to open up also. And there are scientific ways to connect with higher beings. In the Vedic system, it's very safe because every planet is ruled, or is connected with a certain archetype, or sometimes two or three archetypes. So you have all these beings with certain names that they are comfortable for us. But also we can think in terms of, okay, we have brothers and sisters from other stars, and we need to make sure they're the good ones, because some may not be so benevolent.
I'm
So we
like, I
always
have
have.
goosebumps so bad right now. Oh my gosh. My eyes are tearing up. Oh, um,
That means that you know this. I
yes.
already know.
So you mentioned that, people will stay behind on the earth plane, and I know this is a real topic of conversation in the collective right now, that are more open to this conversation anyway. Um,
Mhm.
do you believe that it's going to be like a movement from one earth to another earth, and then one earth will be left behind, or do you feel like that's a state of consciousness?
I believe that from what I've studied and what I've learned and what resonates with me, I think there will be waves of ascension. Some people who are born with the consciousness, yes, there are a lot of higher cosmic beings. Yes, they are comfortable talking about the divine. They already know that they are divine, at least intellectually they know. Because at the moment we become aware we are God, we are not even in the physical body. The energy will be so powerful, will turn into light. So we're not there yet, if we're still here in this body. But so many people are born without consciousness. And just even by being silent, going to a dinner party, but you're silent, you're still raising the frequencies, and the earth plane is very happy that you exist, because the earth plane is a living being who has suffered a lot. And in fact, in the Vedic scriptures, there's the Ramayana, you see the earth plane, the earth goddess, Bhumi, asking Vishnu, a higher being with blue skin, hello, Arcturians, right? Asking, come and help me. These demons are destroying me. And they're causing so much pain, and they're killing humans. They're eating humans. And very similar to what still happens, believe it or not. People will laugh, but that's okay. You know, just look into it and do your own research.
Yeah.
So the earth plane is alive and asks for help, but the help doesn't come until the sun, the light, right? The life force on the earth plane, it is evolving. So there are periods of darkness. We were in a very dark times, the last 6,000 years. So we have records in the Vedic background. It's not a religion for me. The Vedas are not religious. Hinduism is, but that's man-made, like Christianity. Jesus didn't create Christianity, and Buddha didn't create Buddhism.
Right.
So the Vedas say what? That there are cycles. Everything is cyclical. So the sun brings all this light during Satya Yuga and enters a part of the galaxy where the consciousness is raised. So even if you've never thought about the divine, you will perceive yourself differently. So I believe to a certain extent, everyone is ascending to a higher consciousness. However, those who are ready, who have meditated for hundreds of years or thousands of years, you know, summarizing all you've done, I don't know, people, we have all come here or on other planets at least, maybe even 1,000,000 times, millions of lives of all kinds. So we have experienced a lot. And some of us are ready. And I personally am interested in that path called the light body. Maybe extreme people, but I believe that we're not flesh and blood. And I keep saying, I don't want to come back on the earth plane. I just am ready for something else.
Yes.
Being there,
Me too.
that, and even the best things I've done on earth were very fulfilling. Being a mom, incredibly fulfilling. The yogic path, magnificent. I recommend it. But it's not for me anymore. Please don't make me come back and do it again. I'll do my work. I'm willing to do my work. I'm enjoying it. I love helping others, you know, my students, even my family when they want to hear. My children have gone 180 degrees from, you know, laughing to, there's something to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
great.
amazing. It's so good. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm not coming back here again. I've already decided. I'm done. I've had enough lifetimes on this planet. I'm ready to move to something different.
Exactly. But I'd like to hear a few words about your childhood experience. I did watch you in a video with Jill, but I'd like to hear from your voice, how that was. Do you feel like it?
Sure.
Just
I
a
can,
few.
yeah, I can share it again. It was, and you're speaking of my experience with the universal beings or extraterrestrials, as they're commonly known. I just pick that other term for them because I like it better. But at any rate, I was probably about somewhere between 7 and 8 years old. I don't remember exactly. And we lived in an upstairs apartment on the end in on MacDill Air Force Base here in Tampa, Florida. And And it's so interesting to me because since then I've listened to people who talk about this type of, you know, stuff a lot. They're really involved in it and they're really knowledgeable about it. And they talk about MacDill Air Force Base a lot as being one of the bases where a lot of this stuff has happened. So I found that interesting because I didn't know that previously.
No,
I just learned that in the last few months.
I know there are military bases where, you know, like maybe military and government have interacted with extraterrestrials. Hush, hush.
Yeah.
Finally, they're coming telling us, yes, there are UFOs. Duh, we have
Yeah.
been looking at. I have never seen one.
Right. But
So
I went to bed one night, you know, as a little girl. And what's so interesting to me is the different perspectives of this experience, because when I was being taken from my bedroom out of the apartment, it was almost like I was looking at it out of body. It was like I was looking at it from up here and I was watching myself being taken out of the apartment. Now the perspective changes when I get outside and I'm looking at this spacecraft that's kind of shaped like like a kind of flattened out diamond shape, I guess. And it had a door on it that was came from the top down, from the middle, not the top, but the middle of the craft down, so that it created kind of a ramp. And I was taken into the spacecraft. And I don't remember what the beings look like. So I'm not going to say that I remember what they look like because I don't. I just remember them not being
probably
human.
wiped your memory because I remember also going through walls, but I don't remember what happened next, right?
Yeah,
So I think there is this technology, they wipe your memory for comfort so they don't traumatize you. The good ones, the bad
right,
ones, they don't care how they traumatize you.
right.
Yeah.
So the next thing I remember, I was laying on a table inside of the spacecraft with these beings above me, walking, you know, moving around above me, and they were doing things to me. I remember that they were doing things, but I don't remember what they were doing. Nothing was painful to me except, or I don't remember anything being painful except when they messed with my left calf about halfway between my knee and my ankle on the interior portion of my leg. So think if you're having your feet together, it would be, you know, like on the inside where your legs were closer together. And whatever they did right there in my leg was very, very painful. And I remember when I woke up the next morning, I looked at my leg to see if there was a mark on it because it hurt so bad that I was in my little girl mind. I was thinking, I have to have a mark on my leg because it hurts so bad. How could there not be a mark? But there was no mark. And that's all I remember. There just was
You
no
think
mark
it
on my.
could be, you think they could have put an implant or something?
I mean, it's possible. I don't know. Like I said, I don't I don't remember any more than what I just
Meditation,
said.
maybe you can look into it and see what seems right, right?
Yeah.
It
And
feels good.
I do have a friend who does Reiki, and she scanned that area of my leg and she said she did feel a difference in the energy in that part of my leg compared to the other parts of my leg. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying there is, I'm not saying there isn't, but it definitely was a very painful
You
experience.
walk, you walk fine,
I walk
right?
fine. Yeah.
No problem. You run maybe. Yeah. So well, maybe they helped you heal something. We don't know. It could be bad or it could be good.
Right.
Like, for example, I remember once I felt pain here in the sinuses, really painful. But actually, the next day, I didn't have these chronic colds I was getting.
Right.
So maybe somebody helped me. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
We're
And
not
I've had
supposed to.
experiences like that too, not any kind of spacecraft involvement or anything, but I have had pains like that too, where it's like, oh my gosh, that hurts so bad. And then later on, it's like, oh my gosh, I feel better now, like in a joint or
Yeah.
something like that. You know, it's very bizarre.
Yes. So I'm lucky because I've never been prone to nightmares. So I believe I've not had anything too traumatic, you know, with these beings, whatever they were doing. But there was a time I lived by the river, not too many years ago, maybe 15 years ago. We're probably late, right? Probably, are we
You're
late?
fine.
Do we have
Yeah,
any
go ahead.
time?
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
So I lived by this river, and at night it was sound light show constantly. Like I would go to, at that time I lived in India, so I would come back maybe for a few months and then go back. So I believe when you study and go to all these vortexes where the energy is very high, for some reason you become more sensitive and intuitive, especially if you have always been, right? So your senses are enhanced. Also, yoga makes you very intuitive, and we have neurons all over the body, of course, but we become more self-aware, and everything becomes more sensitive. So I would notice that I would wake up in the middle of the night and there was so much light in the room. And then like a minute later, I would hear all these military planes. So what I learned from watching videos on YouTube, like nothing special, or on Gaia TV, the people who have had all these experiences, they say the first they get in touch with these higher beings, Andromedans, Arcturians, Pleiadians, all kinds of groups. And then the militaries come to chase these spaceships, probably. So I felt that I was having experiences. I was super psychic at that time. Literally, I knew things ahead of time. I would have visions. I would tell people, look, this is going to happen. You did this yesterday. It was all true. Some people were spooked out. Some people loved it. They were like, oh, tell me more. And they
Yeah.
wanted to use me as a psychic. And I said, no, I'm not a psychic. I prefer astrology. But anyway, I believe that when you're in touch with higher cosmic beings, you become more intuitive. And all this military, and I was so upset with these military planes because they would wake me up in the middle of the night because I didn't remember anything else. I could just, why do they fly on my roof every night? That was my question. We are in a residential area where there were houses, and why do they do that? So I never understood. And then now that I know a little more about these things, I thought, oh, wow, they were just chasing these spaceships. Because the light, sometimes I would hear like a sibilant, a sibilant sound, like this very soft like that. And then a minute or two later, all these planes, like these sounds of, I live not too far from this military academy. And there are so many sometimes planes, like I can tell the difference between, airliners, and also there were no airliners on the Hudson River. So I know there were military planes. So I realized, oh, something is happening. And one morning I woke up and I said to myself, I am Pleiadian. And I thought, what? Why am I saying that? What does that mean? What does it mean, Pleiadian? I had to do a search. I was that innocent. I knew nothing about these things. And then after doing some search, oh, there's a Pleiades star cluster. Then years later, my mentor started to talk about the Pleiadians who came to the Earth plane, and they settled in Tamil Nadu, the south of India. And then I started to do more research, and there, the higher beings. And from there, I was curious. And
Yeah.
then I remember, oh yeah, I did have experience with this tall blonde guy when I was, I saw him. He looked like Michelangelo, all the muscles,
Mhm.
like what do males? Oh my goodness, my gardeners are. Anyway, so like Michelangelo male statues, like all the muscles. I thought it was just like a Michelangelo, but he was dressed and he was wearing like a scuba diving suit made of golden beige, and he was very handsome. He looked like an angel. He had curls and blonde, very very blonde. And then he was in my room, and then I freaked out. And I believe they wipe us so we don't get scared. That's it. But that time I remember.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I've seen spirit since I was a little girl, so I think if somebody showed up in my room, I would just think that, like it would just be, hi.
No, but I did, I wasn't aware of spirits. I felt energy. I could read the thoughts of other people. I thought it was normal. When I
Yeah,
asked my friends, I said, "What are you talking about?" No, I don't. And I was surprised. But a lot of children have experiences that other children don't have,
yeah.
right? Uri Geller, you know Uri Geller? You've heard about Uri Geller.
I don't think
He
so.
was a psychic who's also worked with like like a CIA, all those three-letter agencies, because he's very psychic and did remote viewing for them.
Yeah,
And he said when he was 5, he was in the garden playing, and there was a orb of light, and a beam from this orb of light went and hit him right here on the third eye. Can you hear? They're
I
doing the
heard
garden.
a little bit of something, not too much.
Yeah, it wasn't planned. They were supposed to come tomorrow. All right. So it was it, and from that moment on, the metal would melt in his hands, and he knew things, and so I think that sometimes we are awakened by
Yeah,
higher beings, want us to
yeah,
do some work and change the narrative, and maybe it's controversial for some, but for most people it's okay and
yeah.
interesting.
It is interesting. I find it fascinating. I love these conversations because I've had so many experiences of my own that it's really cool to sit down and talk to people who have experiences also. And, it's a normal conversation to them, instead of it being something so far out there. But, because I
Yeah.
actually it's so interesting you mentioned an orb because I just saw an orb for the first time in a while I was sitting at the table the other day and
Oh,
it
in your
you got
house?
someone
Your
coming.
house?
Yes, it floated across the room in
House?
front of me like that, and it was
Right, right.
probably about the size
Oh
of
my God.
a golf
My
ball.
husband needs a walker. Yeah, I am okay. Because he had a bad fall. Are you sure you want to do that? Okay. He's trying to help to get all the gardeners to stop.
Oh,
Actually, maybe we can cut this part.
yeah,
Maybe we can cut this.
it's
Thank you.
okay. It's real life.
I was scared because he always has a walker. Now he took just a cane. He's not supposed to do that yet. He has to wait another week. So I was like, oh, but he's trying to help us. So
Oh,
we don't get so much. Very sweet.
that's very sweet. Yes. So, well, is there anything else you'd like to share with us today before we close out?
Uh, so again, the launch is on May 22nd. So why do I want the spiritual community to help? Because we have authors of other topics that have $1 million marketing teams behind. I personally don't. So other people, I'm willing to help the spiritual community. I've always felt that we need to help each other because we're not spending millions of dollars for our marketing and book tours. So why not, right? To
Right.
exchange. Buy your books. Tell
Absolutely.
me what the titles. I'll be happy to contribute. Yeah. And also, I love to read.
I'm actually writing a book right now, but it's not finished yet. I only have the first two chapters written, so but I'll
So,
talk more about that
and
as I get more finished and I have some other things in the works right now too that I'm not talking about because I feel excuse me, I feel like energetically those things need to be kept a little quiet right now, but I have some really cool things that I feel like are happening. Well, I know
so
they're
when you're,
happening. Yeah, so those will come out
I
soon.
believe, I believe that you will be starting to do more work, like work on your movie and also your new book. We need this, and we need the more spiritual people to have courage. And we're so self-conscious sometimes because we're gentler, pure people, I believe.
Yeah,
We're not pumped up by some, I don't know, big corporations.
right.
And we're just working for the light. So definitely we need more courage and more empowerment. And I wish it to you. Wish you lots of success.
Thank you. And I wish you lots of success too. And it's already happening, as evidenced by your previous statement about you being ahead of the big guys,
The
right?
point was that without any marketing, when something has energy that can help others, I believe it, then there is a little bit of a divine wind
Yes.
behind.
Oh,
Right?
absolutely. I totally agree with you. So, and you'll send me your links and I'll put them in the description box below the video here. And that way everybody can find you quickly and easily. And
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I
you're
enjoyed
very
it so much.
welcome. I enjoyed it also. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to close this out for today. And thank you everyone for watching. I'm sure you enjoyed this conversation as much as we enjoyed having it together today. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can get this message out to all of the people who need to hear it. Thank you so much again. And as always, I love you all. See you on the next one.